All right, so it's 10:01. Shall we start?
Let's get to it.
All right, take it away, Melissa.
All right, thanks, Derek. Well, welcome everyone. We're so glad you were able to join us at today's webinar, Everything You Wanted to Know About Subscription, but We're Afraid to Ask. Like the title says, we're going to dive into everything you need to know about subscription, what it is, why we're talking about it now, and most importantly, what the benefits are to you. But before we get started, we wanted to take a moment to introduce ourselves in case you don't know us. My name is Melissa Henley, and I head up the customer experience team here at Luxion. So what does that mean? Well, my team helps you with everything you need to get the most value out of the product, whether that's support, onboarding, or just getting your questions answered. Now, while I'm new to KeyShot, I've been here just about 6 months now. I'm definitely not new to software. I've worked in the tech industry for over 15 years, so trust me when I say I have seen trends come, I've seen them go, and I have a pretty good sense by now of what's sort of just hot to create some articles in the press and really what's here to stay. So I'm really excited to be here today to talk about subscription. And now I'll turn it over to Derek. Derek?
Awesome. Well, thank you, Melissa. You may know me from previous webinars or perhaps from KeyShot World if you attended that, but I'm Derek Cicero. I'm Vice President of Products and Strategy here at Luxion, makers of KeyShot. And today I'm going to talk about subscription from a product development standpoint. We're going to talk a lot about kind of, how we got to this point, but I really want to talk about why we made this change, what it means for the long-term development of the software, as well as the supporting services around that, and how you can use cloud tools for collaboration and how we can use cloud tools to get better feedback from customers to improve the overall software experience.
So first, we want to start things off with a poll. We wanted to get a sense of how you all were feeling about subscription. So in a couple seconds here, you'll see a poll pop up on your screen, and we want you to let us know. Are you thinking about moving to subscription? Have you already moved? Not sure, not thinking it's for you. So we'll give you about 30 seconds to answer. So I don't know, Derek, what do you think the survey will say?
Well, I'm going to assume that if they've already upgraded, this would be a pretty quick webinar, right? If we have everyone there.
Maybe they just showed up because they wanted to hear us.
It could be, and that could be it. I think we do get that a lot. But I also think, for a lot of people, there's a lot of questions about, as I mentioned, kind of why we're doing this, what it means. And so hopefully this will really help them kind of understand that and where we're going. And, and I guess we'll find out from this poll.
Yes. Okay. So we'll give you about 2 more seconds to vote. Go ahead, make your choice. All right. Let's see what the survey says.
Dun, dun, dun.
I know. We need like the dramatic drum roll here.
I think they're still voting. They're so interested.
I know. It's.
Dun, dun, dun.
If we don't like the answer, maybe we can just say the voting was rigged.
So let's see here. We're thinking about it, but aren't sure is the leading one.
But
a lot of people who already upgraded. So good job by you.
Yeah, good job, all of you. But if you're thinking about it, but aren't sure, don't worry. You're in the right place.
Yeah.
Hopefully by the end of this half hour, you will know all about the benefits of subscription and why it would be a good fit for you. Yeah.
And for the people who say that it's not in the cards right now, we're going to put it in the cards.
Yes, exactly.
That's what we're going to do here.
So subscription, even if you're like subscription software, what does it mean? Why does it matter? Well, the good news is you are probably already using subscription and you don't even realize it. Whether it's for watching movies or TV on Hulu or Netflix or Discovery Plus or Paramount Plus, I feel like I'm running down my whole bill on my credit card right now. Or listening to music on Apple Music or Pandora or Spotify. Maybe you get your meat sent to you every month through ButcherBox, or you use Blue Apron or another meal delivery service. Or maybe you get your razors delivered by Dollar Shave Club, or you can even get pajamas delivered regularly. I happen to have my treadmill on a subscription.
All right.
That's it's kind of that creepy. It also has AI. So I fully, like I said, I love tech. I have embraced tech and everything, but pretty much everything's available on subscription now. And I'm sure you can all think of things that I haven't mentioned that you have on subscription. So feel free to drop them in the Q&A if you'd like to share. Maybe like the weirdest subscription thing you've heard of. I think mine is one of my friends she has a subscription delivery service of snacks from around the world. And each month she gets a curated box of different snacks from a different country.
Wow. We could have the KeyShot users send us snacks.
I like that. So if you're out there in the audience and you'd like to send us snacks from where you are, please get in touch with me and Derek. But, subscription, it's not just the future for retail. It really is the future for software. And we've seen why. Is it just because you have to pay forever? But the answer is it really provides a lot of benefits to you as customer. Like with my treadmill, I invest each month in my treadmill, and so I get new content every month to use. Like this month, I've been running through Antarctica, which is pretty cool. And we like to think that subscription on the tech side it has its own benefits as well. It's a lot easier to budget, it's much easier to scale, and it's a lot easier to stay up to date. So a lot of us are familiar with KeyShot's node lock license or perpetual licenses, which we call them in the tech industry, where you buy once and you own it forever. And that's great because you make your investment and then you have your license. But the problem is, what if that's all you do, right? And then you're kind of stuck. And if you're not staying on top of upgrades or your system updates, especially if you're not paying for maintenance, you run the risk of losing patches, hot fixes, ending up with data damage, that might not be current because it's out of date. And with subscription, this is less of a problem because you have access to all upgrades automatically, as well as access to support. It's all bundled into one payment. And I think when it comes to scaling, I think, well, for those of us that have lived through the last few years of, you don't really anticipate what can hit your business. Maybe it's a global pandemic and you might be scaling up or scaling down your staff. Well, with perpetual purchases, you buy it and that's what you've got. Say you purchase 10 licenses and you lose a big client, or there's a global pandemic and you only need 5 licenses. You're stuck with 10. With subscription, it's much easier each year to say like, okay, this year I'm going to scale up because we've taken on a few new big clients. We're going to expand to a new department, and you can do that. You can make that adjustment each year. So it just really is easier. And that's kind of the benefit of subscription. I think that's why it's taken over so much on the retail side, is because it's just a lot easier for the consumer. And so, Derek, maybe you want to tell us a little bit about why KeyShot in particular decided to really align with the trends in the market around subscription.
Absolutely. Thank you, Melissa. Yeah, it was since release of KeyShot 11 back in February, we had a lot of questions. So why did KeyShot choose to go to subscription? Why did you do it this time, right? And so, as Melissa mentioned, obviously there's an overall shift across industries, right, to subscription. And certainly if you look at CAD and design visualization tools, they've been really shifting in the last 4 or 5 years. So in many ways, this move reflects, on a business level, the prevailing trends in the industry. So, that is real and that is out there. For me personally, from a product management standpoint, kind of the 3 parts that really benefit me for subscription, and I believe benefits the users are, these 3 pieces here, which I've kind of broken into extending the desktop, focusing on workflow, and investing in the user base, right? And so, that key initial part, right? And I said the number one thing that we really drove in subscription was reflecting the customer need for better licensing, better online licensing management, as well as reflecting how KeyShot, and you mentioned sort of COVID, but has always been, but really for the last 2 or 3 years, is a collaboration tool, right? Used across companies and used with clients. And so, I would say, for number one support incoming comes from licensing. So that was kind of the original driver, right? Making the self-service licensing a big component of that. And as part of building out that platform of self-service licensing, we really want to enable more cloud-based features, right? So we had some kind of smaller cloud-based offerings before, but it was really about building out those cloud-based offerings. And so we released KeyShot Web Viewer with KeyShot 11. And that's going to make it easier to publish information directly from KeyShot out to the cloud, right? And so this is really, really important. And that, of course, requires cloud storage accounts, right? If we're pushing things out there, you need a subscription to make sure you're managing things going on the desktop and out to the cloud. And so, we really want to make sure it's easier to extend KeyShot out to other platforms, AR, VR, KeyShot Web Viewer, and make future collaboration easier and more efficient. So, that's been a huge part when we talk about extending the desktop. The second part is a focus on workflow, right? And so in addition to enabling more kind of cloud features, move to subscription is also around, getting a more consistent user base, right? One of the things is when you're in that kind of normal upgrade cycle. You're kind of grabbing different people from different areas. We really kind of want that consistent user base that allows us to really say, we're delivering value to these users. We're getting that information back, and really understanding kind of, what the key parts to those users are and connecting the dots on that software, right? So a big part of when we talk about workflow is we've built this robust feature set, over the course of several KeyShot versions, right? When we talk about workflow, it's making sure it all works together, for those existing customers, right? And so subscription certainly is licensing, but it's also a development methodology, right? It's also allowing us to change kind of how we're developing and invest more in development. And in fact, we've actually hired 26 new employees over the last year, including yourself.
Including me, exactly. And it does allow us to really invest in those features that aren't just like the whiz bang things we might throw in a press release, but really make life better for our core customer base.
Absolutely. And the third piece is, and speaking of investing, is investing in the user base, right? And so subscription lets us create a more holistic user experience, across the entire ecosystem. So what does that actually mean? Well, it means you and I working better together, right? The ability to kind of take that customer feedback, beta access, getting review, getting more bugs and features, being able to upvote on those, being able to publish a roadmap out there, right? That's a longer term roadmap. So it really provides visibility into customers and also transparency for customers back into KeyShot. And so we're going to talk about more about, what that means.
Yes.
But, from a product development standpoint, the shift to transition really is an investment in the long-term, customer base.
It is really exciting. And as Derek mentioned, we'll talk more about how we are going to be able to give you out there in the audience more input into the future of KeyShot with some of these new tools we're working on as a part of our transition to subscription. So let's go to the next slide here. So, and Derek mentioned a few things when he was talking about, why we're transitioning to subscription, and what you're saying is, in my time here, I've really heard echoed from customers that they really want consistent releases. They want more control over their licenses. They really want that visibility into the roadmap. So for me, from a customer experience standpoint, this really is a big win for customers.
Well, wow.
No, thanks, Derek. Thanks for helping me out there. So while we're talking, we've talked a lot about KeyShot subscription sort of theoretically, but let's dive a little bit more into what it actually is, what you get when you purchase KeyShot subscription, how it's different from a traditional node lock license. So in case you haven't been reading your customer newsletters, or you haven't, been talking to any of us here at KeyShot, with the release of KeyShot 11 earlier this year, all of our new licenses will be sold as a subscription. And with your subscription license, you get all our major releases and patches, access to exclusive subscription only features, which I'm not going to steal your thunder, but I hear you're going to tell us a little bit more about that coming up. Excellent. Self-service licensing, which means you'll be able to activate and deactivate machines running KeyShot without contacting support. So if, like what Derek was saying about extending the desktop, if you're moving between home and your office, between different offices, it'll make that transition much more seamless and much easier for you. You'll also get access to support with remote desktop options from our KeyShot support team, they're excellent. And which is pretty exciting for me from the customer experience side, one single login to your KeyShot experience. So this means you'll use one login to access KeyShot and other KeyShot resources like the support site, and eventually the new next generation of our forums, which I'll talk a little bit more about later. So Derek, do you want to go into more detail about some of the features that you can only get with subscription?
I would love to.
Excellent.
So single sign-on, basically, if you've logged on to if you're an existing customer, previous customer, you logged into KeyShot Cloud in the last couple of months, you may have already seen the new cloud account login. You sort of see an example there in the lower right-hand corner. But this is basically driven by AWS. And the idea is to kind of get all of our web properties in one unified login. And so that includes KeyShot. So when you actually log into your KeyShot license, if you add a module, such as KeyShot Web, which I'll talk about, KeyShot Cloud, which also now includes my scenes from KeyShot Web, the KeyShot Store, so we actually, obviously buy and download your license, the support site, which you've mentioned, which is backed by Freshdesk, and so adding more and more capabilities there. And finally, the forums. I know our forums are going to be updated as well. Don't want to steal your thunder.
Stay tuned.
But the idea is that all of these will be under one login, so you're not kind of tracking things, and we have that one single unified view of the customer. So if you have an old login, you can basically basically log into KeyShot Cloud, and it will migrate you over. And then you'll sort of see that window there going forward.
It's pretty exciting.
So next, talking about self-service licensing, again, kind of the number one kind of feature add and feature request really is the ability to, when you activate that license with KeyShot, you can then go to the web to enable 3 different computers, right? So you log in, you have 3 different computers. You can easily sign in on those computers. You can use one computer at a time. So you can basically be working from home and then go right back and log in at work, back and forth, go from Mac to PC, because of course we support Mac and PC. And the big thing is the online portal means that, let's say that you want a 4th computer, you can go online, deactivate one and enable it, right? So this is all being managed. Not that you don't want to call our wonderful support people, but I think for this, you probably can handle it yourself, right? And so this is kind of a really big, push. And this is what we spend a lot of time making sure that this works really well. And then you can run KeyShot for 7 days without logging in. So for some reason you don't have internet access, you're traveling.
If I'm like trekking in the Himalayas and deciding to do a little rendering while I'm out there.
That would be surprising that you would do that, but I don't know. Maybe
you don't know me.
And so then you have to reconnect and reset the license timer. So we've really tried to make this as simple and easy to use as possible to really reflect how people are using KeyShot today.
No, that's great. And I know from the customers I've spoken with, this is probably the feature that gets them most excited about transitioning to subscription.
Because they haven't seen this feature yet.
Oh, wow. Tell us more, Derek.
And so the KeyShot Web Viewer, this came out with KeyShot 11. It allows direct export from KeyShot. So you can basically go directly from your KeyShot scene out to the web. And that's it's classic kind of KeyShot ease of use right there, right? It's $468 a year. You can buy in 1 or 3 year license if you want to kind of lock in pricing. And that also is true of KeyShot as well.
Right.
If you want to buy KeyShot and you kind of you're concerned about longer term pricing, you can lock in that 3-year price point. It includes the features of KeyShot Web and KeyShot XR. So if you are a prior user who used the configurator, for example, and we're using the web configurator, it supports multi-materials, model sets, and studios. You can still go to the classic desktop web viewer or, the desktop viewer or the web viewer. And so if you have that, it basically is included as part of this. Also, if you're someone who in the past maybe bought KeyShot XR back with KeyShot 5, if you go up a subscription and you contact Liz's wonderful team, they'll give you a 1 year free of KeyShot Web Viewer if you are a prior owner of any of those tools. And so that basically has 10 gigabytes of cloud storage. So that's the amount of what you can put out on the cloud. And sort of have an example there of showing in your cloud account under My Scenes is where you'll sort of see that and be able to share that. And so, again, kind of talking about how single sign-on brings it all together from a, desktop to the cloud standpoint. So how the KeyShot Viewer works, you load your model into KeyShot, you look at it, you click the upload to KeyShot Web Viewer button. You'll get basically a screen will come up with some basic quality options. It's going to bake in the background, prepare it, it's going to upload it, and you're going to get a link. And you can password protect that link if you want to share it, and then you'll sort of see it in My Scenes. And so as with many things in KeyShot, we've really there's lots of ways to kind of get your models to the cloud. I don't think anyone's done it as easily as we've done it, right?
No.
And that's what people have kind of come to expect from KeyShot. And so kind of, some basic use cases, what we've really seen is because you can go to mobile or an iPad, a lot of people are using it for design reviews, right?
Nice.
So you can kind of come in and do a design review on an iPad, and you're not going to get the exact same visual representation that you get in KeyShot because you are going out, using WebGL to do that. But we're of course always constantly improving visual quality to get as much parity as you can. But you're really trading visual quality for portability and speed, right? And so it's kind of making a decision of, when do you need that high-end render? When do you want more of that portability to make design decisions, right? So the example here, literally on your phone, scrolling through, multi-materials and colors, right? So this is a really wonderful feature for people who are trying to collaborate across, time zones and across locations who may not have a seat of KeyShot, and you want to give them an asset and share that with them. And so, as I mentioned, if you have it in the past, definitely contact. You can get a 1 year free license. If you're interested in a trial, we can set you up with that as well.
Well, this really ties into what you were talking about with extending the desktop, because it really does take you sort of out of KeyShot and out into the world.
Absolutely. So in terms of, that kind of covers where we've been in 2022, right? So where are we going? Obviously, we have a lot on deck for the next 6 months. As Melissa mentioned, updating and expanding the support site. We have, and I'm going to kind of walk through the next release, the 11.2 release. We'll have an 11.3 release in the fall. So continuing to kind of just, provide that value release after release to customers.
Well, and then I know we mentioned the new support site with single sign-on. And for those of you who are used to interacting with our support site, as we move on in the year, you can expect some exciting new features coming on that side as well, including live chat, which means you aren't going to have to send us an email or file a ticket. You can actually, when the hours when live chat is available, you can get on and talk to one of our support experts right there. And we'll also have self-service support. So if you're like, I don't really need to, I think I kind of know the answer, I just need a little help getting it, you'll be able to log on and we'll be able to help you find just the information you need. And it will, make your experience a lot better. So but tell us what else is coming.
Wonderful. So this is a big one that I'm very excited about, which is analytics, right? And so, talking about working closely with support, getting more data back, from customers. So of course, this is anonymous data collection. You've probably seen this in many applications now where they, collect this data. You have the option to opt out. It's not mandatory at all. We'll never share the data for third parties. It really feeds directly into development and support. So people often see this. They'll see this checkbox, say, where does this information actually go? It goes to us. We literally see it. And so, and it is really valuable. We do use it. It's for things like UI, UX. So think of like a heat map of, where people are using the application, where are they not using the application, where can we, have more self-service support. People are clearly, having an issue in, let's say, the configurator wizard. Right. How can we kind of help them out with that? Also very helpful on things like OS info, right? Like what OS are people using? Mac versus PC, and then GPU info. So we actually see what GPUs people are running, so we can make sure that our QA and support teams are aligned to the hardware that our customers are using, right? And so back to my earlier point, that consistent customer base, really knowing who our customers are and really knowing what they're doing and making sure that we're really testing on the common hardware that our customer base is on. This is all of the piece of kind of what we're talking about in terms of what subscription provides at a product development level.
Yeah, really investing in our customers. It gives us those tools.
So KeyShot 11.2, so improved analytics, which I just mentioned, support for Apple M1 chips. I know this was a huge ask. I know everyone wanted this for 11.0. It will be out there in 11.2. Improved 3D paint features. The great Kareem Merchant will probably do a nice update on the quick tips for what we're doing in 3D paint. And then retaining normals and UVs after mesh simplification. When we talk about kind of workflow, that really helps with AR, VR, and Web Viewer. So we're targeting a late June release for 11.2. As we mentioned earlier, KeyShot 11 came out in February. We're using 11.2 in June. We're shooting for an 11.3 in the fall, right? So it's that continuous release cycle of features and improvements, throughout the product life cycle. And in addition, what subscription allows us to do is we talk about M1, put that out in beta mode, right? So if you go in and you install KeyShot 11.2, you'll basically have kind of two installers. You have the default 11.2 installed, uses the old Rosetta implementation, which is the old Intel compiler. And then you'll have a second install that you can run the M1 native, right? And so performance we're seeing on that, I actually ran this test yesterday from 11.1 to 11.2. I'm running an M1 Pro Mac chip, and render time went down from 10:30 on that scene down to 8 minutes and 30 seconds. So we're seeing about a 15 to 20% improvement, performance improvement on the M1 chip. But what we want to do, obviously, is as part of the analytics, we can actually see, how people are interacting with it and the quality of it, right? So we can do that switch over when we know that it's stable and we're making informed PM decisions, right? So this is kind of what we're talking about in terms of how subscription actually helps in development.
It really does, because we look at it as matching qualitative with quantitative data. So what I do with my team is we collected a lot of the qualitative data, the information you share when you get surveys from us and you say, hey, we really want M1 support. This is the most, that's been the most request feature we get on customer surveys. And then we can match it with the quantitative data and actually see from this anonymous data how many people are actually using it. Yep. And that helps us really make better decisions that help continue to make KeyShot better for all of you.
Absolutely. And in terms of, retaining normals and UVs, right? I talked about the web viewer, but we've seen tremendous growth over the last year and a half with AR and VR, right? And so making it easier, again, sort of connecting those dots, making that process easier to take a file, simplify that file, because obviously if you have a huge, asset, it's not going to go up to GLB or USDZ very easily. That mesh simplification tool and making that really easy to use, again, kind of, classic KeyShot of making a relatively complicated thing as easy as possible.
Well, I am very excited about this feature, which is, I know something we've been hearing a lot from customers, and that is our next generation of the forums. And this is where I say our screenshot here is for illustrative purposes only. We're not switching our company color to orange. We're definitely not having an orange oasis. This is just an example of what you might see later this year. And this is going to be an all new experience for those of you who may have posted on the forum once or twice, or may not have even engaged with the forums because you don't really know what's in it for you. Well, there's going to be all new forums. And the exciting thing is they'll be private, semi-private, and public forums. So we can set up forums for you to chat about all the things that matter to you. So maybe you're a beta tester. You would have a forum to go to that would be just for beta testers. So there's going to be a lot of more opportunities to network with each other, with us here at KeyShot, and more opportunities to share your insight on what you want to see in the future of KeyShot, whether it's suggesting and upvoting new features that you want to see, or sharing your ideas with things you love, things you want to see more of. You'll be able to participate in fun challenges. And why? Because you'll be able to earn points and badges, not just to show your expertise, but you'll be able to earn rewards. And that includes KeyShot swag, like some of the beautiful stuff here behind us, wear your KeyShot hat, show everyone how much you love KeyShot. But also, if you earn enough points, things like a free year of KeyShot subscription. So we're really trying to make it fun and rewarding for you to get involved with the community. So this is something I'm particularly very excited about.
I'm excited as well. What badge do I get?
I don't know. Maybe I'll come up with a special one just for you. So on that note, now that we kind of talked a lot about the different features in subscription, we want to hear from you about what you're excited about now that we've talked about it a little more. And so in a minute here, you'll see a poll pop up on the screen. So we want to know, what is it you're excited about? Is it having more control over your licenses? Is it subscription only features like the web viewer? Is it that it's easier to scale up as you grow? Is it that it's easier to budget? Or is it something else that I totally missed and you'll tell us in Q&A? So we'll give a second for the poll to pop up here on the screen. I feel like this is what a game show host must feel like.
I know. Well, should we move on to some of the FAQs while they're voting and come back to this? What do you think?
Yeah, let's give everyone a minute to vote. I actually have the questions here on my screen.
Okay.
Here's a good question. Don't we have access to upgrades with annual support?
Yes. So actually, that's one of the FAQ questions coming up next is for new users coming to the website, they'll buy subscription licenses. If you have an existing license on maintenance, you can maintain your maintenance for next year. So you can stay on the perpetual license and continue to do maintenance in the future. The real focus, obviously, is for new users coming in to have all those folks on the subscription platform.
So let's go ahead and close the poll and let's see what people were excited about. Okay, well, it looks like our attendees here are aligned with what I hear from customers, which they love having more control over their licenses.
Yes, although I do think as they try the web viewer, more people will want to vote in that direction.
Okay, so Derek says you all have to try the web viewer so that next time we run this poll, his option will be first.
That's what yeah.
Okay. Well, so let's turn to some of our frequently asked questions. And I know we have a lot of questions in the Q&A. These are some of the frequently asked questions we've been getting, over the last 6 months from customers. And so hopefully we'll hit some of your questions while we go through these. If not, we'll have a time for a few more questions at the end. So if we don't get to one of your questions, please go ahead and post it in the Q&A box. And also we have some very talented, smart folks handling the Q&A. So they might be able to answer your questions so you don't even have to wait. So let's get to it. So Derek, tell me, if I purchase a subscription license, does this mean I won't own KeyShot anymore?
Well, yes, as long as you are paying for KeyShot on subscription, you'll have KeyShot. Once your subscription expires, you no longer have access to it. So obviously is the big differentiator between the classic node lock license and subscription.
And the next one, of course, is, which we touched on this a little bit about annual maintenance, but if I purchase subscription, does that mean I still have to pay annual maintenance on top of it?
No, they're completely separate. So maintenance is just for the traditional node locked licenses, or if you had the old FlexLM floating licenses. So maintenance is attached to perpetual licenses. Subscription is just one price. You basically get the software, you pay an annual rate, and that's just it. There's no additional maintenance charge on top of that.
Nice. And so this question we get frequently from our customers who have node lock licenses, which is, do I have to move to subscription right now? I'm not sure I'm ready.
No, if you're on maintenance, and I know there's been some confusion around this, if you're on maintenance, you get the latest version, right? And so if you're currently on maintenance and KeyShot 11.1 comes out, 11.2, you just get that. And so that will continue. So if you're someone you're happy with perpetual license, you're happy on maintenance, that will continue. Obviously, we do want to shift users over subscription because of all the reasons we outlined here today, right? The overall, ability to have a holistic view of the customer, adding more systems to extend the desktop. But if it's not ready for you right now, you can obviously wait until, a year or two to make that move.
Okay. So no one's being forced to move right this second.
Correct.
All right.
All right. So I've got some questions for you now.
All right. Bring them on.
All right. Can I pay monthly for my subscription?
Well, actually right now, currently all our plans are annual payment, but, we are always listening to feedback from customers. I know a monthly option is something people have been asking for. So it is something we are looking at. But just in case there are any questions, I think I'll jump ahead of this question, which is, even if we do in the future offer a monthly payment option, it will still be an annual contract.
Okay. And obviously, as mentioned before, you can get a 3-year contract. So
Yes,
if you're
you
someone
can.
who is worried on that price point, you can actually lock that in for 3 years at a discount.
At a discount. Yeah.
Next question. Does my subscription automatically renew?
Yes, it does. So much like my favorite app on my phone, which is Solitaire, it does automatically renew unless you cancel. For this first year, you'll be contacted by your customer success manager to help get that renewed. And then in the future, as Derek mentioned, as we continue building out more and more of these self-managing licensing tools, you'll be able to handle that yourself.
All right. One more question for you. Can I buy it and just use it when I need it and then cancel it?
Well, no, subscription is only available with an annual contract. I know this is something we hear frequently that, well, I only need KeyShot, for a month or two a year. I'm just a hobbyist, or I'm only working on one project. Even if in the future we do, as I mentioned, even if in the future we might decide, even if we decide to offer a monthly payment option, it would be with an annual contract. And one thing we like to tell people when, they have that concern about paying for KeyShot is, especially if you are using KeyShot for your business, try and bundle that cost into a project. And if you can't, there are, we do have some other payment options that I'll talk about a little bit later.
Awesome. Is there if you are a hobbyist, a personal edition of KeyShot possibly?
Well, sure, Derek, just go ahead and scoop my slide coming up here.
Sorry.
Yes, we do have a personal edition that is intended for hobbyists. And people who are just getting started with rendering don't need maybe all the features of KeyShot, and that is half the price of KeyShot Pro. And if that's something you're interested in, you can contact us at csm@luxion.com and we can help you get started with that.
Wonderful.
So, well, turnabout's fair play. So I have some more questions for you.
All right.
So one thing we hear from customers a lot is they have perpetual licenses. They aren't ready to move all their existing node lock licenses over, but they want to move maybe one department to subscription. Is that okay? Can they do that? Can they use subscription licenses alongside node lock licenses?
Absolutely. I mean, the software is the same under the hood. So, obviously any KSP file that you're sharing is going to work from one to the other. Obviously the real value is in the collaboration tools. So we do want people to get on subscription to allow those collaboration tools to be, much easier to, share assets, and share web viewer scenes across companies. But if you still want to stay on node locked, you can. There's no requirement to you can still mix and match as you see fit.
Okay, great. And I think you have already touched on this one, but just because we do get this question a lot, I want to use KeyShot subscription, but do I need to constantly be able to connect to the internet to use it?
No, as I kind of mentioned at the outset on that one screen, when you do the initial license grant and the license pull that establishes that machine, you'll have to be connected for that initial time. Anytime you then want to add a new machine, you'll be connected. But you have 7 days between basically kind of refresh points where you don't have to be on the internet every single day every time you use KeyShot. But you will need every 7 days to refresh. And obviously, if you have 3 machines you can enable, if you wanted to enable a 4th machine, you would have to obviously go on the internet, disable one and enable another one.
So if you are deciding to trek to the Himalayas and get a little work done while you're there, you only have to fire up your hotspot once every 7 days. And finally, last but not least, I want to move to subscription, but I don't know, am I forced to auto upgrade? Do I always have to run the most recent version?
It's a great question. Yeah. And so it's similar to how KeyShot works today. When you load it up, it will check if there's a new version out there. And it will also give you the update of, what's in the new version, what's been changed. And then you can elect either to, download that and run it, or basically just not do that. So you don't have to run the most recent version. Obviously, one of the things we talked about, with things like certainly with GPU rendering, right? Having the latest drivers, having the latest updates, patches and bug fixes. So there's a lot of value to at least running, if not the most recent version, the second most recent version, but it's not a requirement if you kind of have IT restrictions that you're locking your KeyShot version necessarily to your CAD upgrades, for example.
Awesome. All right. Well, and now, we're on sort of the downslide to the end here to getting through all these questions. We wanted to say thank you to all of you for listening to us. And for our existing customers out there who are on a node lock license, or maybe, and are interested in subscription, you can use the code on the screen, go KeyShot sub, by June 10th to save 30% off your first year of KeyShot Pro subscription. Now you may be out there saying, Melissa, but I have one license on KeyShot 5 and one on KeyShot 6 and one on KeyShot 10, and one of them has annual maintenance and it's just a big mess. No worries. If you have a situation like that where you have a number of seats or a prior version, a mix of prior versions, we can help you out. Just contact my team at csm@luxion.com and we can help you get started migrating all of those versions over. So it's a good way to get started with your first year of KeyShot subscription.
That's a nice discount right there.
It is a nice discount. And for those of you who were like, wow, Derek and Melissa, you talked about a lot today, but I'd really like to learn more. I feel like I really need to brush up my KeyShot skills. We do have a lot more ways that you can continue learning about KeyShot whenever you want, including in-person personalized training, as well as video quick tips that we send out every week so that you can keep improving your KeyShot skills. And if you're also out there in the audience saying, wow, Melissa, I had no idea. How do I find these great video quick tips? Well, first of all, check our website. They're all posted on our website. You can also find them by following us on social media. I have our Twitter and Instagram handles on the screen. Or you can sign up for our newsletter at keyshot.com/news/newsletters, and we'll mail them out to you. We have a great team that puts together some amazing tips. I know this last one was on adding condensation to your bottles, which is actually the picture there on the screen, and is everything from that to managing your licenses to having floating dust in the air, lots of things that can help you really, sharpen up your KeyShot skills.
Yeah, and I do actually want to give a shout to our manual team. They've been working really hard these last 2 versions of making the KeyShot manual as great as it can be. Amazing content, linking back to a lot of those videos. And the video team has been incredible, just cranking out quick tips and tutorials every week. So if you want to learn about KeyShot, I cannot recommend enough. Go to the YouTube channel, follow us on social media. Our social media, in my opinion, is great because it really is focused on honestly teaching you the software and making you better, and talking about customers. It's not kind of patting ourselves on the back for random accolades. It really is focused on that real technical value of making you better and unlocking the value of the software and the manual as well. And of course, obviously, you have thoughts and suggestions on what we can do to maybe cover different areas. Definitely let support and customers let us know.
Yeah, and the product manual too. I would say a lot of us tend to say like, oh well, it's a manual. What can I learn? But our manual actually, if you haven't been there, I encourage you to visit it at manual.keyshot.com/KeyShot11, because the manual actually includes a really handy wrap up of what's new, the highlight of exciting features. So you really get an overview of what is exciting about the new release, besides just, learning how to use it. So it's a great thing to check out if you haven't yet. So on that note, since we've been talking about learning, we wanted to ask you what you'd like to discuss in a future webinar. So we'll have one final poll that'll pop up, and we want to know, what do you want to hear about? Do you want to hear about KeyShot tips and tricks? Do you want to hear more about the KeyShot roadmap? Do you want an in-depth overview of a specific solution like jewelry or soft goods? Would you like an Ask Me Anything with a KeyShot expert? Would you like to hear from a customer about their story? Or is it something else that you'll tell us about in the chat? So I don't know, Derek, what do you think people are going to vote for?
Well, I know for me, I love the customer stories because I'm constantly fascinated by all the unique ways that people use KeyShot in their company. Sometimes in the pre-manufacturing stage, sometimes in marketing. Obviously, a lot of people right now using it for, like I mentioned, AR, VR. So seeing a lot of traction in the GLB creation space. And so I always love to hear that. But I suspect that the users are going to want tips and tricks. They always love those tips and tricks.
I was going to say, are you stealing my thunder here with the customers? That's my area of the world, but I'm going to go with Ask Me Anything with a KeyShot expert, mostly because I want to see our customers try to stump one of our experts. So let's see what the survey says. Oh, look, it's tied between tips and tricks in the roadmap.
All right. Well, looks like I'm going to be up here in the next couple webinars.
Looks like you have not gotten enough of Derek yet. So don't worry.
Remember, you asked for it.
Okay? Exactly. It's all of you out there in the audience. It's your fault. So let's go ahead and wrap things up here. And we wanted to share our contact information. I know I've mentioned it a few times as we've been talking. If you have any feedback, if you have a question about doing a specific upgrade deal to move your licenses over to subscription, you just want to reach out and share your input. You can reach me and Derek at csm@luxion.com. Also have our social media handles on there. You can find us on YouTube. If you were like, wow, I just really want to watch this webinar again, it will be on YouTube. In fact, it's streaming live on YouTube right now. So we have time for just a couple questions?
Yeah, why don't we take 2 or 3 questions from the audience? We had the wonderful Kareem Merchant, one of our creative specialists, here to help us out. So Kareem, what do you have for us?
Honestly, you guys have answered a pretty large majority of these questions coming in. One of the ones we do have has to do with annual maintenance. If they already have floating licenses with annual maintenance, how do they manage subscriptions with the licenses they already have that are served from their network server?
So that's a great question. So if you're using floating licenses for the purposes of using a FlexLM server, which a lot of IT departments will sometimes require, this is separate. So we're using our own cloud licensing solution. So that is where if you do have a need for a FlexLM server, you'll want to stay on floating license with the ability to manage that until we kind of have more robust team management tools. But you could use both. If you have some users who want to use subscription, they could, but they're not interchangeable. So those are 2 separate licensing models.
And then another question we had, I think this relates to not only students, but they're saying, what happens when freelancers or students that are no longer accessing those licenses have files on the cloud storage system? What happens to them afterwards if they're no longer talking about?
That's a great question. So yeah, if you put things in the cloud and then you expire your license or don't renew, it'll be about 45 days, and then those will eventually be pulled down. So you would not have access. That's part of what we were kind of talking about earlier of when we talk about sending a desktop is having that cloud storage tied to that and having that be part of the subscription offering.
And I think that about ties it up with the questions we have here. We've gotten through most of them. You guys have answered them.
Wonderful.
Excellent.
Melissa, parting words?
If you please contact us to talk more about subscription. We're happy to answer any questions you didn't feel comfortable talking about on the webinar today. And thanks for being so welcoming for my very first webinar.
Yes. Well, thanks for putting this together. Thank you for joining.
Yes. Thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to seeing you again soon.